Logan and I both watched it, and we said we thought the same thing right out the gate. We're talking about Desperation Road, guys. It's a phenomenal film. Willa Fitzgerald, Mel Gibson, Garrett Hedlund, Ryan Hurst, like some of the most amazing people. We're going to talk about that too, because that cast is unbelievable. But when we watched, we were like, that opening scene before the credits, like, intense. Like, when you open a movie like that, you're like, where the fuck are we going with this? This was kind of like, holy shit. And this wasn't easy to make, was it? Because, I mean, we've been hearing over and over, it was a very tight schedule, 16 days. You've got, I mean, that's a lot of story in 16 days. So talk about, first of all, how you came to Desperation Road, because for anybody who doesn't know, it's adapted, right? And so talk about how you even came to it. Was it brought to you, or did you go after it, or how did it come to be?
No, it was brought to me by Cassian Elways. Cassian Elways was an executive producer on my first film. He's a dear friend. He was one of my beginning mentors that I had in my life, and he had been trying to find a project for us to work side by side on since he saw Continue. He was so passionate about it and has his own connection with mental health, and so he had offered me a couple projects in between, and none of them were right. And I think he knew that too. He just was like, hey, if there's ever something,
here,
like, I just want to work with you. Yeah. And it was like, nope, but the next one. Nope, but the next one. And then Desperation Road came to me, and I read the scripts. Like, it takes a lot for me to attach to a project. And I don't say that like, I'm so, it's more so when you have a family and you're a mother and you have, this life, it has to be something that sets me on fire inside, that I'm like, I can't not tell this story. And my voice is the only voice who can do justice to this story. And if I don't feel that, I don't go, no matter how bad I have to pay my bills, because that's the hard decisions we have to make as a director, so yeah, I had extensive notes, and then I read the book, and I basically went to Cassie and it was like, I'm very into this. I have a lot of thoughts, and I took him through all of them, and he was like, I agree 100%. Let's get you and Michael on the phone. And so that's where the screenwriter, but also the writer of the book, he had adapted his own novel. And so we had our first meeting, and luckily it was such a beautiful collaborative process that and he took all of my notes and he loved all of my ideas. And so then started the process of applying all of those, and then me starting to do my own writing on it, because I think there'll probably never be a project I'm a part of that I have very strong opinions. So I felt like to get my hands in there,
Yeah.
And for me, one of the most important things in any film, but especially in this film, is I don't believe in unlikable characters. I think that it's a waste of our time and a character if I can't identify with every person. And it just tells me if they are unlikable, that there's too much we don't know about them. And maybe through showing that, we can help the audience to empathize, to at least understand them. It doesn't mean they have to be their favorite character, but so like I say that with Ryan Hurst's character, like I understood Larry, in the book and in the script, he was a very different character, but I knew for a person to be that way, how much trauma he must have endured.
Right.
And so the process was like, okay, how do we show you who he is so that you can identify and understand where he comes from and all of that trauma? And then, to the mother-daughter relationship, I have no interest in telling a story where the mom isn't a good mom. And I just never will. So it was very important to me that this story be about a mother and a daughter who are desperately trying to survive. And the whole thesis of the entire movie to me is this one line, which is when Willa Fitzgerald, Mabin, tells Garrett Hedlund's character, Russell, not everybody has somebody.
Right. Yes.
We identify with that. And so that to me was like, that's where I jump in. Okay, that's where I do. And when the story first came to me also, all the stories were told like back and forth. I was like, no, I think we have a fucking cold opening that like shows them what they're in for, and it thrusts them into the world. And then we let them have a gasp of air in Russell's world. And it was a very brave thing for them to be like, okay. But I start all my movies with a bang. Like literally I try and like, I want okay, like let's look at this logically. They say the first 10 minutes is when any audience member decides whether they're going to keep your movie on or they're going to shut it off. Your first 10 minutes are your most vital. So if I don't hook you in my first 10, you're not going to watch anyways. So I'm going to show you exactly what the fuck we're doing. I'm going to show you exactly where we're going. And you're either going to know that you want to go on that journey or you don't in the first 10, 15 minutes of any of my films. You know, that's my theory. But yeah, so that's how the project came to me. I got very hands-on, and then the casting process began, and I'm very specific about the type of artist I'm attracted to also. You know, I know as directors, you guys understand we all have these different things that we're looking at and or that drives us. For me, and I said this earlier, it's extreme vulnerability. I am attracted to it in everything I do, in every conversation I have. Like if you meet me and you're a very guarded, different person, you'll meet a different version of me than who I actually am, because then I'm very quiet and I'm like, yeah, nice to meet you, you know, and I'll never be mean, but I am just extremely drawn to vulnerability and to deep conversations and to, you know, making every moment count that I'm on this planet. So for me as actors, like when I watch an actor, it's everything that's happening in here.
Yeah.
It's not what I'm saying, it's what they're living. It's like the vulnerability in their eyes. It's the story we're picking up without them ever saying it. That is what I'm attracted to. So there's a specific actor that I'm like, I need that, you know? And I just feel so lucky that on this film in particular, I got all of those artists, you know, because you have all those dreams and all of those things. But I ended up, I mean, it's what my producing partner, you know, on Continue, his name's Jay Seals, what he always says to me is the right actor comes to the right role. And like, no matter who or what you might think at the beginning, by the time you actually get those people, you know that you found your exact people. And that's how I felt about Desperation Road. I can't imagine if anyone had it been any different, you know, down to everybody. I mean, Willa Fitzgerald came to me the week before we were starting.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I wasn't familiar with her work, which is kind of like astonishing to me now, because I'm like, she has done so much good stuff and she's everywhere right now, you know, like, especially like, I feel like every day I turn something on and I'm like, oh, and so I'm watching a new movie she's in or a new show or, you know, something. She's such an incredible artist. But Cassian is who actually recommended her to me. And then I deep dived her work. She was coming straight from another project. She had like 3 days to prep that role.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
It's silly, but I ended up with like the exact humans I was meant to, you know, and everyone was so game. I just feel so incredibly lucky. And yes, and just to, you mentioned this, you know, about the 16 days in the schedule. I have a minor every single day. So I have maximum 8 hours with them.
That's right.
I have 2 car crashes. I have a sexual assault with a closed set. And I have like 6 storylines of an ensemble cast. And every single storyline needs to be told from beginning to end. And I have 16 days to do it. And I have Mel Gibson for 5 days because he has hard dates out. And I have only 3 weeks to prep it. And 2 weeks before the production started, I had already scouted the whole movie in Mississippi. They moved it to Kentucky.
Yeah.
So
wow.
you can start from scratch and you have 3 weeks to set it up and then you have 3 weeks to do it.
Wow. Wow.
Ooh, yeah, that's a lot to take in. Talk about pressure. Goodness gracious.
But I came out of it with like the strongest confidence you could ever have, because when you do the impossible, you're like,
yeah,
exactly.